Hi there, in this section we will handle our create page. We will see how we can create the listings, and during this we will see how we can upload and store files in our project, such as image files. Okay, so let me just go to the listings controller and uncomment here this get create method. I'm just going to remove this part here because we don't need it. And I'm also going to need to uncomment this post create method as well, but we'll modify it a lot there. So when we create the listings, we're going to need to get an image file from the user, and we will store it inside a folder that we will create inside the project. For this reason, we're going to need a helper model that is similar to the listings model, but it does store the images inside an iForm file property. Then we'll take the data from this model and create a listing model with it. But instead of the iForm file, we will store in the database the address of the file in the image file string property that the listings model has. So let us just create this model firstly. I'm just naming it ListingView model, just as a practice. And let me go to the listing model. And from here, I'm going to copy almost everything. I'm going to change the image path property later. And I'm not going to use these bits and comments because I don't need them when the user inputs the data. And here I'm changing this property to iForm file, which accepts files, including images. And I'll name it like image, just image. We need to import the data annotations here for the required data annotation. Okay, so I'm going to go to this www.root folder, and here inside I'm going to add an images file, which will be the address where the images will be stored when a user stores it, when a user creates a listing. So if we go to the create.cs HTML, here we're gonna need to modify a few things to create the listing. So I'm just changing the header to create listing. I'm making it an H2 header. And on top, I'm gonna import a few things so that we can get the user that is currently logged in the application. So firstly, just add using Microsoft.asp.NET Core Identity. I'm also going to need to inject here the user manager in the view page. So it takes an identity user, and I'll name it like user manager with a small u. Okay, so here we're going to need to write encryption type in the form, and here we'll select multi-part form data, which will be able to accept the file, the image that we will input there. Here in the price, when we take the price in the label, we can just write it as starting bid. Here in the image path, we're gonna rename it to image because now it is a listing view model, not a listing model, which has an image property. Changing it here as well, but we need to on top we need to make it as listing view model, not listing model. Here in the input for the image, I need to specify also that it accepts image. So this line here we need it to write there. And about the styling of it, you can do something. So I'm just setting the width to 30% for normal form. Changing the image here also. Right now for the isSold property, we don't need to input anything here, but we need to make it that the default value for the isSold property to be false. So listing is not sold. And this we can modify if we go to the listing model and to the listing view model as well. So here we need to make it equal to false. So when a listing is created, it is by default is not sold. So we'll need to modify it in the listing view model as well. So here we don't need to take any input for that. Okay, so here now we need to take the currently logged in user. So just put here an input tag. It will be of type hidden, so yeah, it's not shown in the view page. Here in the ASP4 tag, we need to specify identity user ID. And we need to select the value to it, so it will have the value of the currently logged in user. So how we get the currently logged in user? We use user manager that get user ID of the user that is logged in. So that's the syntax how you write it here in the view pages. Let me just run this here, run the project here to see specifically the create view page, how it looks like. There seems to be an error. Let me just find it. Okay, so I would suggest the problem is the create post method, because we haven't fixed it and it has a context in it. But we take the information from the controller, we take the information from the service, so I think that's the problem. Let me just go to the controller. Yes, so here are the errors, so I'm just gonna comment this out for a minute and try to run the project again. Let me just go and to see the create view page. Good. We see how this looks. And okay, I'm just gonna uncomment this now so that we can handle what. So we saw how the form looked, how the create page looked, but we'll handle here how the input will be handled. So here we'll take a listing view model, just name it listing. So we're just making an if clause here to check if the listing.image is not null. So here we'll store it in this images folder. So firstly, we need a variable to specify the upload directory, which is gonna be can get it by writing path.combine. You'll need to access this address of the www root directory, which can be done using a web hosting environment service, which will have to include actually in the constructor of this controller. So we'll combine this path with the images folder. So for this to work, we need to import it here in the constructor. Firstly, we need the private read-only variable for it. It's gonna be iWeb host environment. I'll name it just like web host environment. And this will get us the address of this directory that we want, where the images are stored. Just need to specify it here inside the constructor as well. And back to the create method here, we need to specify here we need a variable for the file name. How we can get this is by writing listing.image.name.file name, sorry. This will get the name of the file when we upload it. And the file path will be path.combine this upload directory together with the file name. So now we need to write here using var file stream. Write new file stream. We'll create a new file stream class here. And inside we will specify file path and file mode.create, which will basically create a file for us. So this file stream initializes a file stream class. Here is the path of the image where the file will be created, and here we specify that we want to create a file in this file mode.create, as we can read it here. So what is left for us to do is here write listing.image.copy to file stream. And after we have created and stored the file inside our project, we will create a listing object, which will be what will be stored inside our database. So we'll have this, we'll create a new listing. The title of it will be the title, which was the listing view model, the title. So we'll take it from the view model. The same thing we'll do for the description as well. Price equals listing.price. So this listing was actually the listing view model that we took from the form. The identity user ID will be listing.identity user ID. And the image path will be this file path that we have here above. So this is how the object is created until this point. And here, what's left for us to do is to return a direct to action to index page. So we'll return the user to the index page until the form, when the form is submitted. Afterwards, but right now we need to have a to create a function in our service so that we can add this listing to our database. So we need a method that doesn't return anything, which is an async await method, and I will name it add, and it takes a listing object. Let me just go now to the listing service, and here it would appear an error above, and we need to click implement. One moment, yes, here I'm going to implement the interface. Here I'm going to need to write async. And we need to add this listing in context that in the database by writing context.listings.add listing, and we just need to save the changes to the database. So underline context.save changes async, and the method doesn't return anything. Here we need to call this method from the service that we just wrote. So await underline listings service dot add, and we'll add there this listing object. And we have an error up there because we haven't specified what happens when the listing.image is null. So let me just return the user to the same page where the user is, so to the create page together with the listing object. Okay, let me just run the application now so we can test it. We actually go to program.cs firstly, because when we need to register a user, here in the service right here, we need to require confirmed account to false, so that when we register a user, it doesn't need to verify the account, so it will be just created instantly. That's how we usually do it for our purpose. Okay, let me just register a user here. I've run out of names for users. Yeah, just jeff@gmail.com. We need the password for it. Let's go to the listings.create. I think I have a watch in my files. I'm just starting with, I don't know, 35, and choose the file here. Okay. I'll choose this here. This is, I think, a man's shirt was there, so I'm just changing this description here. Okay, so here we see the listing was created. We see how the design will be when we create a listing in the index page. So we see the title, the description, the bid, and the person who made the listing. So what I also need to show you is if we go to our images folder here we can see that when we created the listing, the image was uploaded in our folder here. So basically, yeah, when a user inputted a file there, we created and stored the file inside this images directory. And then, of course, a new listing was created with the image path property. So with the address where the image file is saved, and here in the index view page, we see that we take in the image, the source is images at listing.image path. So this is how it is written from the database, the address of the image. So this was it for this section. We finished the functionality for users to create a listing, and we also saw how uploading files works. Make sure to keep watching the following sections in order to complete building the application.